Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Sports IQ on a Tuesday. Glad you're here with us, Larry Smith. We've got lots to talk about. Man, NFL now in the books. Couple of games last night. Those are two thrillers. Talk about that here in just a second. Also, we talked yesterday about the Colts, how probably the team we're most impressed with, certainly in the AFC. JJ Stankevitz joining us here in just a moment. He's a Colts beat writer. We'll get his thoughts here. Also, the college game, Texas Tech, the big surprise, maybe not with all the money they spent in the offseason. But we've got Brian Jensen, our friend, talking about the Red Raiders, now in the top 10 and solely right now in control of the Big 12, a conference that there is as much parity in that conference as any of the Power Four. And right now, with Tech is on top. So we'll talk with him and find out what's going on. Also with their quarterback that had an injury down there in Lubbock. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Let's get first to our headlines. We've got baseball playoffs a bit later. But NFL last night, interesting night on Monday night. Doubleheader with some up-and-coming teams making a statement. The Falcons using their youth of Michael Penix, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London on offense, and a relentless pass rush to subdue the now struggling Buffalo Bills. Robinson rushing for 170 yards, including an 81-yard touchdown run. That was a thing of beauty. Penix throwing for 250 yards with no picks, and London hauling in 10 balls for 158 yards and a score. And on defense, the Falcons with 4 sacks, 2 picks, and they harassed league MVP Josh Allen all game long. 24-14, the Falcons had a 21-7 halftime lead, held on to the second half as they moved to 3-2 on the year, now in solid position for a playoff push here in the early part of the season. The Bills fall to 4-2. Not a bad record, but keep in mind those 4 wins coming against teams that have a combined 3 wins on the season. So some question marks right now in Buffalo for a Bills team we thought would contend for the AFC title and a trip to the Super Bowl. Maybe not. They have some things to work on, and certainly their coach said later that they're going to work on kind of getting back to the basics and resetting here during their bye week. In D.C., the suddenly playoff-looking Bears making amends for one of last season's heartbreaking losses by beating the Commanders 25-24. Caleb Williams, very effective, 17 for 29, 252 yards and a score. DeAndre Swift rushed for 108 yards on 14 carries, grabbed a pair of receptions as well for 67 yards, including a 55-yard catch and run for a touchdown to lead the Bears offense. Chicago now 3-2 on the season, and they extended their winning streak to 3 games under first-year coach Ben Johnson. One off-the-field note as well. In the NFL, as we finally have our first head coach being fired, and that's the Titans, and Brian Callahan being given his walking papers in just his second season. Mike McCoy, the team's senior offensive assistant, has been named interim coach. McCoy was coach of the Chargers from 2013 to 2016. The offensive-minded Callahan was brought in to replace Mike Vrabel and develop Tennessee's young quarterback Will Levis. Instead, Levis took a step backwards behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and the Titans finished the 2024 season with a 3-14 record that earned them the number 1 pick in this year's draft. There was, again, optimism during the season, entering the season with the new quarterback in Cam Ward, but the Titans have been brutal on offense. Through 6 weeks, Tennessee's offense ranks dead last in yards per game at 232 per game, and also second worst in points per game, just under 14 points per game. So already a change there in Tennessee. Will there be more to come? If it's in like college, yes, we'll have more to come. We'll see what happens on that. Okay, we've got more news coming up in a moment, but first, producer Tony has our first guest.
Thanks so much, Larry. And, the NFL season always brings some surprises. Sometimes it's in games, sometimes it's in player performance, sometimes it's entire teams. And one of the really nice, pleasant surprises so far this season has been the Indianapolis Colts. Joining us now is JJ Stankevitz. He is team writer, stadium announcer, and host of the Colts Show podcast. JJ, thanks so much for joining us today on Sports IQ and talking to us about the Colts season so far.
Absolutely. I mean, happy to talk about a team that's 5-1. I mean, that's incredible. We wake up Tuesday morning and the Colts are in first place in the AFC. It's like you said, it's been a very pleasant surprise, at least for the folks who are not players or coaches on this team. I think all those guys expected it, but for everyone else, this has been awfully nice.
Coming out of the gate, the Colts, there weren't a lot of expectations coming out of the gate. Things have been struggling the last couple of years, but this team, when they didn't punt for like the first game and a half, they made a statement right off the bat that this offense was for real, right?
Yeah, it really, when you reflect on the first 2 weeks of the season, you're absolutely right, Tony, that, yeah, it's like, this offense is real. You saw those signs immediately that there's nothing fluky about what the Colts are doing. It's Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen being on the same wavelength in a way that when Shane has had a quarterback like that in the past, it has been successful. And I think that it's not, maybe he had it a little bit with Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert, but I keep going back to this is like watching like Phillip Rivers with Shane Steichen, where he's got a quarterback who knows exactly what play to get the Colts into. Shane's going to give him answers, and you've got these versatile weapons that all fit together so well, and a quarterback who's going to hang in the pocket under pressure and deliver the ball with accuracy on time to the guys he needs to get it to. And then, oh, by the way, you have the best running back in the NFL who you can hand the ball off to. It's all worked so well. And there's nothing, again, like I said, there's nothing that feels fluky about this. There's nothing gimmicky, about what this offense is doing. And they've consistently found answers where, okay, after the first couple of weeks, they did a lot of this play action, half boot roll stuff. The Rams sort of figured out a way to stop that. And the Colts have pivoted, and, they're still going to run a little bit of that, but you're seeing them kind of evolve this offense and still find success. I mean, last week, Arizona came into the game averaging under 20 points allowed per game. The Colts put up 31 on them. It's just a good offense.
Yeah, they're one of the top scoring teams in the NFL. They're one of the top yards per game team in the NFL. Coming in, knowing Daniel Jones was kind of like a reclamation project, right? I mean, didn't pan out in New York, went to Minnesota for a cup of coffee as a backup, let go there, came here to Indianapolis. What do you see in him? What do you see about his confidence? Is it just his trust in that offensive coordinator, allowing him to be what he's always had the ability to be, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think that's where it starts, Tony, is the trust that Daniel Jones has with Shane Steichen, that they have built together. Daniel Jones, I'm sure, trusted his coaches, previously, but it starts with trusting your coach, and now he's trusting his offensive line. That is something that I have to imagine was awfully difficult to do with the New York Giants, where they had some of the worst offensive line play in the league over his last couple of years in New York. He had an awfully good running back in Saquon Barkley, but he never had receivers like this. He never had a vertical threat like Alec Pierce. He didn't have the slasher over the middle contested catch. He's going to take a shot and come up with like Michael Pittman Jr. He never had a guy in Josh Downs who, like, if you need 6 yards on 3rd and 6, he's going to get you 7, and he's going to get you 7. And he never had a tight end like Tyler Warren who can do pretty much anything on a football field. So it's all, and all those guys, by the way, they all do different things really well. So Daniel Jones is able to accentuate what each of those guys does well in a way that has made this offense so much better. And it's made him a better quarterback. And I just think, like, if you zoom out a little bit, it's interesting the way the league has kind of gone over the last couple of years, where I think from probably, call it Jared Goff through the next, maybe that Justin Herbert draft, it was like, you got to get a quarterback who's a rookie. So, that's when Goff came into the league. Obviously, he had his ups and downs, but then Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, these great quarterbacks that came into the league. And it was like, all right, you got to go get one of those guys. Well, as it turns out, those guys are really hard to find. They just all kind of came in this little cluster. And now you're seeing, outside of maybe an outlier like a Jaden Daniels, I think Jaden Daniels is more of an outlier in this, as a rookie who's come in and done very well, or, now Drake May. you're seeing teams be able to pull these reclamation projects, right? These guys who were high picks, who maybe were not in great situations. So Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold are two great examples, right? Where they have now had success with different teams that did not draft them. And I think Daniel Jones has kind of slid into that, where it's like, this guy's a good quarterback. He was good enough to be taken 6 overall. And now he's in a good situation. He's learned a lot. He's honed his process. He's seen a lot of defenses. And now he's in a good situation as a veteran with 6 years of experience under his belt. And now he can go. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Colts.
And let's talk about, a lot of fans don't really know the front office personnel. Yeah, they wind up knowing about the GM because sometimes he's in the news, sometimes but the average fan couldn't name the GM of, if they're a Colts fan, of the Colts or the assistant GM. But a lot of credit has to go to them, because when you look at this Colts roster, especially the offense, it's mostly 90% homegrown. The entire offensive line were drafted by the Colts, Quentin Nelson being the only really high draft pick. The rest second, third, fourth round that they've developed and move on. So that front office, as far as finding talent that can be developed, is doing an awesome job in Indianapolis.
Well, I mean, think at all those guys I just mentioned. You talk about the line from left to right. They're all homegrown. Every single tight end on this roster was brought in, either drafted or undrafted, has been with the Colts their entire career. Every single wide receiver on this roster was a Colts draft pick or an undrafted free agent. Every single running back on the 53 right now was a Colts draft pick or an undrafted free agent. And you drop Daniel Jones in there as the free agent addition, and all of a sudden all these guys are like, holy cow, these guys are good. And they've all developed really well. That has been this team's strategy. And it's funny, like, over the last 4 or 5 years, ever since Phillip Rivers retired, it's been this, if we can just get the quarterback, if we can just get the quarterback, we've got a good roster. And the Colts have not got the quarterback until, as it would appear, this year. And now they've got the guy, and you're seeing the vision that Chris Ballard has had for this team, and specifically this offense. You're seeing it come to life in a way that I think we've all been kind of waiting for, because the Colts have done such a good job drafting players on that side of the ball.
And it's nice, from a quarterback standpoint, you've got weapons, but there's a certain, I would imagine, a security blanket feeling having Jonathan Taylor in the background, having him behind you, knowing if I need 2 yards, I can give him the ball, knowing on certain days that he's just going to take over a game and is just going to run through people. So that, has to be a very comforting factor for that offense.
Yeah, the two things with JT, number one, it's his ability to churn out those explosive plays. If you block a play for 5 yards, he could turn it into 10. He could turn it into 40. He could turn it into 80, because he is that type of a running back. But the other thing with him that I think is maybe goes under the radar is he doesn't get negative runs. So if you hand the ball off to him on 1st and 10, even if the defensive line wins, he's going to find a way to get 2 yards. And now you're not behind the sticks. And this is an offense that it's not the type of offense that's going to succeed when they're consistently in 2nd and 12 or 2nd and 13 or 3rd and 12, whatever it might be, because I think that the offenses that succeed in those situations are the ones that have a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, who can make plays from the pocket, but also can make plays outside the pocket. So they can beat you 2 different ways on those 3rd and long type plays. This is a Colts offense that they're not going to thrive in those situations. And that's okay. Most offenses don't. But yeah, it's JT's ability to just avoid those negative plays that is kind of this sneaky. It's like that's the foundation, and then the skyscraper that you build on top of it is the explosive plays, the 100-yard games, the 3 touchdown games that he's able to get you.
That makes perfect sense. Now, the other side of the ball has been effective, but hasn't been dominating yet. They've got a little bit of work to do, especially against the run. What do you see them working on, or what can they possibly do to, just kind of inch that defense just a little higher up in those standings, make it, so the offense doesn't have to carry quite so much of the load, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting push and pull with this defense where they've dealt with a lot of injuries in the secondary, specifically at cornerback. I mean, in week 6, the Colts, if you kind of zoom out, they were missing 5 cornerbacks in that game. Charvarius Ward, who had the concussion before the game, Kenny Moore II, who's been out for the last couple of weeks with an Achilles injury, and then they signed Mike Hilton to be Kenny Moore's backup. He's out with a shoulder injury. They drafted Justin Wally in the 3rd round to be a starter on the outside. He was having an awesome training camp. He tears his Achilles in August. And then Jalen Jones, who had been a starter on the outside for the last couple of years, really just good football player. He's been out since week 1 with a hamstring injury. So, that's 5 cornerbacks that you're missing. It's hard to play. You can do what you can, but like, you're really, teams are not going to have a lot of success digging that deep into their depth chart generally. So I think it'll get better. Like, holistically, the defense will get better. And I think, like, going into the run game, I wonder just how much Lou Anarumo has to play his defense differently when he's missing so many guys at corner.
Right.
The run defense does need to get better. The pass defense needs to just the overall efficiency that this team's giving up does need to get better. But the thing with Lou Anarumo is that he will every week throw something just diabolical at an opposing offense. He'll do 2 or 3 of those plays where it's like they're doing what? And that gets the quarterback to be confused a little bit. And that's where you try to create explosive plays on defense. You create a turnover, a sack, a TFL, something that torpedoes a drive, and then you force a punt, you get the ball back. I think that's where this defense is going to continue to be aggressive in trying to find those 2 or 3 splash plays a game where maybe they aren't going to be the most efficient unit down to down, but you get down into the red zone and all of a sudden Lou Anarumo throws a look that you've never seen on film and you throw a pick. Well, okay, fine. You let him go down the field, but at the right time, Lou threw the right punch. So it's going to be an interesting kind of push and pull with that as the season goes on.
And now we enter mid-October. Everybody is about a third of the way through the season at this point. Do you see the Indianapolis Colts at all being players as we hit the trade deadline? Normally the trade deadlines, football is not like baseball or basketball. Right. There's usually a little bit of movement, but not a lot. Do you think they might look to maybe shore up that defense with a piece or two if they can find it? Is that something that the team might like to do?
I think they would like to. Because they are winning and they do have some needs on that side of the ball. Like to and those are different things, right? Teams, I think the reason why, Tony, you see the football trade deadline be a little different than those other sports is teams know, even if they're bad, if you look at let's take the Bengals, for example, where I think they're still trying to win, right? Right. But if they have a pricey, a guy who they paid a lot of money, he's in the last year of his contract and he's about to hit free agency after this year, they could say, well, we're going to let him walk after this year, and then we're going to get a comp pick for him in 2027. So why would we just give up on our season now and get a pick when we might just let him go and we'll get a pick anyway? So that, that's something that you need to take into account is like teams just don't give up guys because they feel like they could get a comp pick for them. So you have to then meet that standard of like, okay, what's going to get this team off of A, giving up on their season by trading him away, and B, getting better value than the comp pick they'll get, So you can offer them a pick a year earlier, but that doesn't always work out. And then you have to have the salary cap room. You have to have the cash to make these things work. It's a lot more complicated to kind of do this than I think, it would be if you're just playing Madden and you're on franchise mode and you're saying, we haven't needed this position, let's go get him. So I think to answer your question, I do think the Colts would like to upgrade some parts of their roster, but that does not mean it is realistic for them to do it. We'll see. It might be, but they got a couple weeks, and we'll see. I think they'll try, but I don't know if they'll be successful because I think a lot of teams will try and a lot of teams won't be successful.
Yeah, my grandson plays that Madden franchise mode, and I get calls all the time. Papa, should I do this? Should I bring this guy in? Can I make this, and he's just loaded up with this roster that's unbelievable. I'm like, well, not realistic, but a lot of fun. Right. JJ Stankevitz, thank you so much. He's a team writer. He is the stadium announcer, and he's the host of the Colts Show podcast. JJ, thank you so much for the insight. We really appreciate it. We'll call you again as the season progresses.
Anytime, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
We will be right back on the Sports IQ after a quick timeout. We'll take a look at the baseball playoffs and what happened last night with Larry. Stay with us.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
877-927-3380. 877-927-3380. That's 877-927-3380.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Well, thanks so much to JJ joining us, talking to producer Tony there. A little Colts talk. Let's get to baseball playoffs now. And in Toronto, the Seattle Mariners bringing their hitting sticks in a big way to make easy work of the Blue Jays in a 10-3 win. And so the M's now go home with a commanding 2-0 lead in the series. Jorge Polanco and Julio Rodriguez, each with 3-run homers. Josh Naylor added a 2-run blast to lead the offense. And the Mariners bullpen taking over after starter Logan Gilbert was chased after 3 innings. The bullpen trio of Edward Bizardo, Carlos Vargas, and Emerson Hancock each pitched 2 innings and gave up just 1 hit total in that time. In the last 18 innings of work, get this, going back to the division series, the Mariners pen has not given up a run in the last 18 innings of work. Now, keep in mind, Seattle is the only big league team to never play in the World Series. But they now head home for Wednesday's Game 3, halfway toward clinching this best-of-7 series and ending that drought for a team that started play back in 1977 in the old Kingdom. Cool times up in Seattle this week, and they can get it done. Over in the National League, Blake Snell has been a rock for the Dodgers this postseason. The 2-time Cy Young Award winner allowed 1 base runner in 8 shutout innings before LA's bullpen barely held on as the Dodgers opened the NLCS with a 2-1 victory on Monday. Brewers manager Pat Murphy called it perhaps the most dominant performance he's seen by an opposing pitcher in the 10 years he's been on Milwaukee's staff. The 32-year-old Snell struck out 10, walked none, yielded 2 runs over 21 innings in his first postseason with the Dodgers after they signed him to a 5-year, $182 million contract. The Dodger bullpen again made life interesting for manager Dave Roberts, who I think is ordered a fresh case of Maalox here to keep the stomach calm. Rookie Sasaki had been dominating coming out of the pen this postseason. He had not given up a run in 5 1/3 innings until last night. A walk, ground rule double, sac fly, made it a 2-1 game. So with 2 outs and runners on second and third, Roberts bringing in the former closer, Blake Treinen, and who had a 9.64 ERA in September to try to close it out. He walked William Contreras to load the bases before striking out Bryce Terang to end the game. There we go. Dodgers up 1-0. They'll play game 2 tonight. Padres making some off-field news. San Diego manager Mike Shildt deciding to retire, announcing this on Monday via a letter emailed to the media, and then the club announced it after that. The move comes after the Padres, coming off a 90-win regular season, were eliminated in the opening wild card series round in 3 games by the Cubs. Shildt was manager for just 2 seasons, but over that time, guided the club to 183 wins, 141 losses. In 2024, his Padres won their wild card series matchup with Atlanta before being eliminated in 5 games by the rival LA Dodgers in the NLDS. Shilt's decision comes a bit of a surprise, given that he signed an extension in November of 2024 and was under contract with the Padres for 2 more seasons. So there you go. Speaking of coaches, well, the Penn State job, as we shift to college football, now has one potential candidate, and it took steps on Monday to sidetrack that candidate, discuss him leaving for Penn State. Matt Rule is now at Nebraska, but Rule is a former Penn State player, has ties to Pennsylvania. So, of course, on Monday, with the Penn State job open, he knew he was going to get asked about James Franklin being fired on Sunday. And the Penn State job now coming open, here's what he had to say.
This place is elite. And I want to be a great father, and I want to be a great college football coach. And so, I'm not going to talk a lot about job openings when they come. Maybe it's been a while here, but this is what happens when you win. I've dealt with it. We've won at Temple, and I dealt with it all the time. I've dealt with Baylor. I'm not going to talk about those things ever. I'm not going to talk about my contract here. I'm going to talk about the team. But I absolutely love it here, and I want us to continue to take the steps needed for us to turn this thing into a beast. And players all across the country want to come here. We have the best facilities. We have elite fans, and I'm just looking at the future. So, but again, I love that place. I love Pat. I love James Franklin. Sad that came to an end. I wish him the absolute best, but I'm really happy here and excited to get going this week on Minnesota.
So there you have it. Now in his third season, take that the way you want. Now in his third season at Nebraska, Rule has the Huskers off to a 5-1 start and back in the AP top 25. He's one of those guys, again, that just finds a way to get it done. In year 3 at Temple, he had the big breakout year. Year 3 at Baylor, the big 3 breakout year. And we've talked before, this is year 3 in Lincoln. And again, they're 5-1 right now. And many think could be a wild card to make some noise here in November in the Big Ten. Stay with us. We'll talk Big 12 and the Texas Tech voice of the football Red Raiders. Brian Jensen is up next here on the Sports IQ.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Get back now to college football. We were talking about this weekend's games, and we're joking that maybe surprise Texas Tech's in the top 10, maybe not with the way they handle things in the offseason. Joining us, we are thrilled to have on the show Brian Jensen. He is the voice of the Texas Tech Red Raiders football team. Brian, welcome to Sports IQ.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First, let's talk about, before we get to things happening on the field right now, in terms of coming into the season, and that was a big buzz, was Texas Tech, spending some money to put this team on the field to compete for championships.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, they sat down, Cody Campbell, the big donor, and the athletic director and head coach and others sat down and said, okay, well, here's what the rules are. Would you all like to get the support needed to be able to fulfill what you need to do to be able to compete at the highest level? And now that the rules allow us to do it with the kind of payments that they do, that's what they decided to do, and they went all in.
Yeah. What's been the biggest surprise, do you think, with that? Was it just one of those kind of look, I mean, it's ego, right? I mean, if you see your rival doing something, you're like, well, why can't we do that? Is it within the rules? But what's the biggest surprise in this process as you see it?
That's a great question. I think the biggest surprise has been the way that the recruits and the players in the portal have received things other than the money. So they came to, so if you're not aware of this, the campus has been completely rebuilt from a athletic program basis as well. Mm. So Tech now has the largest contiguous football facility in the country. And it is amazing. And the players that have heard all along that, Lubbock is a desert and there's nothing to do there and blah, 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 that all the, opponents have always thrown out there in recruiting, they get to campus now and they go through this facility and they see what's happening in town. And they're like, wait a minute, this isn't what everybody has been telling us. This is 180 degrees. It is the best facility they see in all of their recruiting processes. And they all say it. I mean, I'm not saying it. I'm telling you what they are saying.
Sure.
And it's that had the surprise is how great they have received everything beyond the money. I mean, the money's great, obviously. It's attractive, but other schools are throwing out money too. Tech is not the number one spender in the NCAA right now, contrary to popular belief. So it's more than just the money, and I think that's probably where maybe it shouldn't be a surprise anymore, but just the way that it's been received.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point that I don't think many football fans, college football fans, know about the facilities and those kinds of things. And it does make a difference. And that is where I've seen other programs do this, and improve the facilities. And, everyone, even if you have a facility you built 15 years ago, it's now becoming outdated. So you've got to be able to have the foresight to expand and keep up with the times.
That's right. And the facility is brand new. So the timing was fantastic. Getting this done at the exact time that the rules opened up to allow the NIL money and the other monies that are being spent, it fit. And so that's why I think you're seeing, along with Joey McGuire, who is the head coach at Tech, he is one of the most dynamic people I've ever been around in my life. I've been doing this for 26 years now and have been through a handful of head coaches, and he is by far the most dynamic coach and the one that, when players meet him, they're on board, and it's remarkable. So we put all that together at one time, and that's what's caused the big surge.
And that's impressive. That's high praise when you think about that. You guys had the late Mike Leach once upon a time. You had Kingsbury once upon a time, the former Red Raiders star quarterback. And now to put him in that position as head coach, and for you to say that, again, being part of the program for 26 years or being the voice for 26 years, that's very high praise because Mike Leach was an innovator in so many ways. Cliff Kingsbury, we know what he did on the college and pro level. So that's huge praise.
Yeah, it's more on the personality side. So Mike Leach was the scientist, the mad scientist. He was a guy that you got around him and you were amazed and awed by what he knew, and just the depth of things that he knew, and the way he designed the plays and designed his recruiting to go after guys that nobody else wanted, but they fit his program perfectly, and it caused the rise in the program. But it wasn't necessarily his personality. Okay. Cliff Kingsbury, a guy that, great mind, offensive mind, but not a guy that's a big motivator and really like to get out there and do a whole lot of recruiting. And so that wasn't great. Tommy Tuberville, we won't even talk about. Matt Wells, not a great fit. And then you get Joey McGuire in here, and just all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is so much different and so much better in so many ways that, like I said, the timing's perfect. Having a coach like this, because here's the deal. You get these great players that come in from, like, say, for example, Stanford, Georgia, wherever else they're coming from, that they're used to the big time atmospheres, right? They come to Lubbock now and they've got a coach that they completely buy into. And they're the ones that are now saying, man, this is the best fit for me. This has been a great place to play. They're the ones that are going out and help recruit the next guys. Right. So it's really turned out to be a good fit so far.
Yeah, talking with Brian Jensen, voice of the Texas Tech Red Raiders, undefeated right now, 6-0. It's got to be fun from where you sit, and you've seen some, like I said, we just discussed some great offenses, some great football over the years. But this is an offense that is just really fun to watch. I got a chance finally to watch the Utah game, and which is, by the way, I think 34 points was the lowest scoring output they had this season.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you being in the booth to call these games and to watch this team perform.
Well, like you said, I went through the 10 years of Mike Leach, which the offense was just ridiculous, okay? But zero defense. Now the offense is a blast because they do a lot more vertical play. When they break runs, they break 70-yard runs instead of 30-yard runs. And it is a lot of fun. And you never expect them not to score. And when they don't, you're disappointed. And then when they're in the red zone and they end up having to kick a field goal, you're disappointed because you just expect them to score touchdowns. It's fun. And you go into a game going, okay, is this the one that a defense is going to figure them out? And then so far, it hasn't happened. It's a couple times in the first half, maybe, but by the time they get the adjustments made at halftime, which is another thing that's been very impressive with this coaching staff, is that they do make adjustments at halftime that make a difference when they come out on the field. But the other part of it is they now have a defense that is ridiculous. And that makes a huge difference when you can get a 3 and out. Now, all of a sudden, if your offense sputtered on one drive, they get right back out there and have another chance at it to make it right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. The one ranked opponent on the schedule at the moment was beating Utah in the game I talked about, 34-10. By the way, they've not allowed more than 17 points in any game. That was against Kansas this past weekend. You did lose your quarterback to an injury, Baron Morton, who's had an outstanding year, 1,500 yards passing already, completing 70% of his passes right now. What's his status? One, what has he meant to this offense coming back from last year, and what's his status right now for this week against Arizona State?
Well, you talk about all the players that were brought in. He's one that's been here the entire career, and that's important because he has grown up in the program. He has grown through the coaching changes, but more importantly, he has so much knowledge of football, having played so many years now, that he's taken a little bit of all of that, and he's so good at reading defenses now that makes a difference when you're out there, obviously. Well, he has, let's see, an ankle that was injured earlier in the year. He's had a little difficulty with it, and then in the game last week, he got rolled upon, and might have been friendly fire. I don't know, but it was just one of those things where the injury he had before was kind of little bit re-aggravated. He's day to day like the rest of us, so they will he play? Won't know until Saturday. He's one of those guys that doesn't have to have a lot of reps during the week because he is obviously he's been around it so much. He's been through everything and he knows the game. He knows what they're going to do. He's watching film. And here's the other thing about this cool facility. This facility has the Patrick Mahomes room, which is this indoor kind of a quarter field with this huge screen that they put. They'll put the opponent on there, for example, and they'll put a play on there, and they'll let the quarterbacks or the injured players kind of do a walkthrough, seeing what they're going to see on Saturday, and then they'll do the same thing in practice. They'll shoot the practice, put it on the screen for them, so they can go through and walk through in the practice and see what they should be seeing, and get a feel for everything. So they were talking. Coach McGuire yesterday in his news conference was talking about how much that helped. The last time he was hurt, and also how much that helped Jacob Rodriguez, our linebacker, who last week wasn't able to practice much, but he wanted to see what it was he was supposed to see, and he got a chance to in this room. So it's impressive what they've put together so far, and hopefully that'll help Baron this week.
Yeah, I got to get down to Lubbock to see this. This is amazing. Yeah. That's really cool.
It is.
At Arizona State this week on Fox, 4:00 Eastern time kickoff. Going through, and again, not that there aren't challenges there, because there are. Obviously, BYU's in the schedule. Central Florida has proven that they can be tough out. It's lining up right now to be a schedule that Texas Tech certainly controls their own destiny to get not just to the Big 12, not just the college football playoff, but a bye in the college football playoff. This is a team that could be 13-0 or 12-1.
Whoa, just hold on now. Okay. And this is what we're trying to tell the fans too. Just chill. Okay. 6-0 is great. Tech was 7-0 in 2013 or 12. I'm not quite one of those. One of Kingsbury's early years. They were 7-0, and then they lost the next 5. So that's not expected with this team. However, Tech has had a history of not handling, their prosperity real well. Okay. Again, different team, different surroundings, different everything else. So the thought process is, it does look pretty good, but Coach McGuire will tell you this right off the bat, and they have this as a one of their talking points every week. Let's go 1-0. and 1-0 is this week. And if we go 1-0, guess what? We're going to be set up for the next one to be able to go 1-0. Quit thinking about 6-0. Think about going 1-0. You're going up against the defending conference champions. You're going up against a quarterback and a receiver that are as good as anybody in the country. And you're at their place. And it's homecoming for them. They're doing the alternative uniforms. You know, they're throwing everything at it. So you better go 1-0 this week.
There you go. Spoken like a true veteran. Well, I won't project too much football, but I know while you're focused on football, Red Raiders basketball this week, Texas Tech just coming in yesterday.
Number 10
in the preseason. What coach has built there? I love watching the team play last year in the NCAA tournament. And certainly, I don't take a lot of stock in preseason polls, except that it's a level of the respect that the media or the people, the coaches, whichever poll it is, that they have for your program. I mean, especially now because there's so much movement of players that, I saw a couple years ago, Gary Parrish had Kentucky ranked number 1 over the summer. Didn't have any players.
Yeah.
The roster was empty. How can it be number 1? But preseason is respect for your poll, and it's great to see the respect that Tech has going into the season.
Yeah, Grant McCaslin has been, just like Joey McGuire, has been just a perfect fit and a great find, and he's done remarkable things. One of those things is bringing players in every year, rotating the guys, that go into the portal, going, to the recruiting trail, whatever it takes. This year, I think one of the reasons you're seeing such a high ranking preseason is because not only has he done that again and plugged in players that are well respected around the country, but he's also got 2 of the best players returning, JT Toppin and Christian Anderson. And those guys have matured another year. And the expectation is that they are going to be dominant players in the Big 12. And if they are dominant players and you plug a couple of more guys that have come from other places to fit the match and culture. That's another thing that we haven't really talked about, but is so important. And they do it both in basketball at Tech and in football at Tech. And that is when they go to get a player, they know the player they want to go get. And it's a player that isn't necessarily the number 1 on the list, although they've gotten a couple of those. It might be the number 3 on the list, but culture-wise, it fits what they do better. And so that's really important to the consistency of the program and making sure that you're getting a player that isn't going to cause waves and maybe he doesn't play as many minutes as he thought he was going to, and now he starts sulking and it becomes a problem. They don't have those players. They have the players that understand they're going to be ridden hard. There's going to be a lot expected of them, and guess what? There are other good players there too, and they may not get exactly what they want. But in the end, if they play with the culture and the program, they should get what they want at the end. So,
yeah, well said. And I think too, the question of this program is after Chris Beard left, what would happen? Mark Adams wasn't a good fit. Grant does this, like you said, in a couple of years now, going into year 3, and he's got them right there among the nation's elite. Well, listen, I won't ask any more about this weekend's game. We'll leave it there. Red Raiders on the road. Hopefully, Wharton's healthy, and they go to 7-0. Or 1-0 this week.
That's right.
Look forward to next week. Hey, Brian, listen, great to meet you and talk with you, and hopefully you can find some time later on this season to join us again.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, brother. Thanks so much. Once again, Brian Jensen, he's the voice of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Number 8 Red Raiders. I'm sorry.
Number 7.
7 Red Raiders. Number 10 in basketball. Number 7 Red Raiders at Arizona State. It's on Fox this weekend. Okay, much more to come here on the Sports IQ. Welcome back here. Great to talk there with Brian and Red Raiders. 1-0. 1-0. That's all we're talking about. Producer Tony joining us now. As we mentioned yesterday, we're going to get into a little bit more of the WNBA. A great piece done by Annie Costable of the Front Office Sports about the WNBA. And again, the issues right now financially of where they're going. If you get a chance, Front Office Sports, she did a tremendous job of really breaking down kind of what we've already talked about here on the show the past 2 or 3 weeks in terms of the finances of the WNBA with all the money coming in, where are they heading with this? Tony, you were saying, just as we were discussing here in the break before we came on, that it's, you don't realize how underpaid these players are until you see a breakdown like this.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the money and what NBA players get from their deals and what they split with the league. And I understand, that the WNBA isn't quite in that kind of financial shape. I get it. But when you look at the numbers and you realize how much the league is taking, and let's face it, look, there's nobody in that league office that anybody's paying to see. Nobody. If it's not for the players, they're not getting where they're at. If it's not for the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, if it's not for the recent influx of Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, some of these other ladies, the popularity isn't there, but the popularity is there. And people want to watch this product, and people are watching on TV. They're going to the arenas. And I get it. They've got to recoup some of that money from past years where they kept it afloat. But, when they're talking about upping it to like 14 or 15% of league revenues, seems awful low to me.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. And it's just, again, and I keep going back to, and I could be way off base. It just feels like Unrivaled has some dollars to maybe become a rival if they choose. And again, I don't know. It's just speculation. But they're raising money. So they're planning on expanding at least the Winter League from what they did here in year one and what they're planning to do here in year two. One of the things I thought was really interesting in Annie's reporting, again, we're taking this from Front Office Sports. Want to give them the props. They did the work on this. We're just passing it on to you. Was talking about that right now, the league's current supermax, right? The top that a player can make is just under $250,000. And according to sources of her reporting, that will not go up to even $1 million. Right now, these sources they're quoting includes a supermax salary in the new arrangement of about $850,000, and the veteran minimum around $300,000. Right now, the veteran minimum is like $78,000. So there are substantial increases in this. The question is, to your point, what percentage is that? Do I think the players are expecting 50-50 at this point? I don't think they're looking for that, but they're looking for more, like you said, 15% or so.
Yeah, I mean, if they've been getting about 9.8, I think that was the last figure that I saw what they got in this year's contract, then I think, going up to 20%, 22%, 25%, that's realistic and allows the WNBA to still make money. And still, you can keep some of that for the league. And let's say the players agree on 25% of league revenues, just to put it out there. Maybe I can solve this all for them. The league gets half. 25% goes to the players. You take that other 25% and you repay those investors who've kept the league afloat all that time. Problem solved. Everybody moves on. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And just the where the values have gone. We've heard that the size, Joe and Clara Wu buying the Liberty from James Dolan for somewhere between 10 and 14 million. And really at the time that was just considered just to keep them in New York. Well, they're now worth, $300 million, right? We see the Connecticut Sun getting multiple $300 million offers for that franchise to be moved somewhere. Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, bought the Aces for $2 million just 4 years ago, and now you see what they're worth. It's one of these that everyone else making money on this, and this is going to have to find a way to work itself out. I do believe that they will come up, but as you and I know, we have been veterans of many of these negotiations over the years. We've seen this in baseball and football and basketball. It always gets ugly before it's resolved. And it seems like right now the players are willing to stick this out to get what they want.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some contentious negotiations. There's going to be some back and forth. There are going to be some things said in the media that probably don't need to be said, but will. And it'll all get interesting. At the end of the day, do I think they're going to have a season next year? Absolutely. Is there going to be some sort of lockout or strike or whatever before then? More than likely, but I think they'll figure it out, hopefully without missing any actual game time.
Yeah, and keep in mind, again, I say it again, more than 100. There were, 13 teams this year. That's 156 roster spots in the WNBA. About 2/3 of those are free agents. They set up their contracts to be free agents in this offseason, knowing the new money, the new CBA will be coming, and they want to cash in on that. So right now, you've only got roughly 50 players under contract come November 1. So keep that in mind as well. These are players that right now do not have contracts within the WNBA. we'll see what happens there. Okay, our moment of all is coming up next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
One thing we have not mentioned yet as we get to our moment of all, the AP preseason top 25 coming out. Purdue, number 1. Houston, number 2. The defending champion Florida Gators, number 3 as we start. And as we get into college basketball now, we start to see some exhibition games this weekend with the start of the regular season here just in a couple of weeks. In the early part of the 20th century, not all teams play well-rounded basketball schedules like they do today. For instance, Big 12, do you know that the BYU Cougars in the 1933 season lost at Denver Piggly Wiggly 49-25. Texas lost to Fort Worth Poly High School in 1913, 23-18. And Kansas, back in 1902 and 1906, lost to the Chicago YMCA. Little history there and a moment of, as we get ready for college hoops. Thanks to our guest stopping by. Thanks to you for being here as well. It's the Sports IQ. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.